How many of you are entrepreneurs? How many of you want to become entrepreneurs? Wow. Why? Why do such a stupid thing like becoming an entrepreneur? Life is more peaceful, no, when you're working for somebody. Yeah? So why would you want to do an idiotic thing like becoming an entrepreneur? Why? I saw so many hands going up that you want to be an entrepreneur. Any of you can tell me?
Yeah.
Why?
Have a better life, earn more money. Life taking risk.
Can I disappoint you? You will neither have a better life nor will you earn more money. You will create a better life for the rest of the world. So if you are the type who will feel satisfied that because of me dunya badal gayi hai, then you will go to your maker in a very nice condition. But if you are the type who says, I want to have flexi time, I don't want to do 9 to 5 job, I want to earn more money, I want to take a vacation whenever my wife wants one, none of it is going to happen. None of it. Okay? At least when you are working for somebody, at some point in the day you can say enough is enough. I am not taking one more phone call or replying to one more mail. But when you are an entrepreneur, there is no such luxury. What other reason?
Enjoy what you do.
Enjoy what you do. Yeah, true. You start because you think you will enjoy what you do. There will come a time when you start wondering whether, in some misguided moment you took this decision. So that also may not be the right reason. What else?
Want to be different than others.
Want to be different from others. Nanga ghumo na, you will be different from others. Itna bada step kyun lena hai for becoming an entrepreneur? Much easier, much simpler ways of being different from other people. Have a haircut like mine, you will be different, no? Or like yours, absolutely. What else? नहीं होता है, नहीं होता है. As long as there is a customer, customer is always your boss.
There's a sense of fulfillment after you do it.
Hopefully.
You did something.
That you touched somebody's life. I think that is the reason for becoming an entrepreneur. That because of your idea and effort, life changed, life transformed, things became better in society. And I don't mean things became better in a political way. I don't mean poverty alleviation ho gaya or, literacy increase ho gaya. I don't mean like that. I mean in whatever way life became more convenient. Therefore, tomorrow when you die, people will remember you. People whom you have never met will remember you. I think that's the best part. I always say this, you want to become an entrepreneur because you want to be immortal. You want people to remember, not people whom you know or met, but people whom you don't even know, but to say, like you shed a tear when Steve Jobs died. Yeah? So you want somebody to shed a tear for you. I think that's the real reason why, even though we know it's tough being an entrepreneur, it involves one hell of a lot of sacrifice from you and your family, not just you. Your family is put through hell the day you take a decision to become an entrepreneur. Okay, in spite of it, you still want to become an entrepreneur for the simple reason that you know society at large is going to benefit from your becoming an entrepreneur. That's really the reason. So what's the starting point of becoming an entrepreneur? You decided, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. What's the next step? You need a good business idea, right? Forget the business part of it for the moment. You need an idea. You need an idea to say, I'm going to build a business around this idea, right? That's the starting point. Ideation essentially becomes the starting point in any journey. Is idea important only when you are starting a company? If all of you go to sleep, I'll also go to sleep. Is idea important only when you're starting a company?
It has to be a continuous process.
Sorry?
It has to be continuous.
It has to be continuous, right? So, is idea only when you start your own company? Had two components to it. One, is it only at the start of the journey? Two, is it necessary that you start your own company? You may be working in SIBA. Is idea not important then? So, the way I look at it, ideation is a continuous process till you die. I don't think ever in life ideation stops. In business ideation, it has to be absolutely perpetual. If it isn't, your business will die. You understand that? So, ideation is not just when you are starting off your new company. Is that clear to everybody? It's a perpetual till you die, till you are coffined and buried, ideation continues. And you may have ideas also on how you want to be coffined and buried. Yeah, I have, by the way. In my will, I have written very clearly what are the books that should come with me. I'm very clear about it. My comfort shorts, my comfort shoes, they all have to come with me. Because I don't know, upar jaake I don't know what I'm going to do. Instead of chewing that bugger's brains, I might carry, the books that I love. Is how I look at it. Point I'm making, ideation is perpetual. There is no stopping ideation, right? Let's look at, so one of the things entrepreneurs, like in a gathering like this, when I am talking, many people tell me, ma'am, I'm interested in being an entrepreneur, but I don't have an idea. Many have even asked me, is there something called an idea bank where I can go and draw? My answer always is, no, ideas are all around you. Right? They're all around us. So let's look at some. I'm only going to tell you stories. I know 2 o'clock is a bad time. So I'm only going to tell you stories to keep you awake. Okay? I don't have any funda theory to give you. Just because they said Professor Nandini Vaidyanathan, please don't assume I'm going to give you one theoretical lecture. I'm not a professor in that mold at all. So I'm only going to tell you some very interesting stories. I'm quite certain most of the stories you wouldn't have heard of. Right? So there was this guy, I'm going to start with 2 stories. There was this guy in Philadelphia. He was an accountant working in a chewing gum factory. And as you know, many of you, seem to have worked in corporate. So you all know that the 2 biggest enemies working in an organization, one from accounts and one from marketing. The 2 will never get along, right? They will always have a perpetual fight between them. The marketing guy thinks accountant is an idiot. The accountant thinks marketing guy is a con man. Just glamorizes his whole role and extracts money, is paid unreasonably high money. So there is a perpetual war between these 2, right? Always. Now in this factory, it's called the Fleer chewing gum factory. There was this, typical war between the accountant and the marketing guy. This accountant's name was Walter Dahmer. One day he got fed up. He was arguing with the marketing guy, and the marketing guy turned around and said, "Bugger, what do you know about marketing chewing gum? What do you know about making chewing gum? Forget marketing chewing gum. What do you know about making chewing gum? To tell me, whether my pricing is right or not. You are an idiot." So this guy got very bugged. He went home. He took some bubble gum material and went home. And he tried experimenting at home so that one day he could tell the marketing guy, "I know how to make chewing gum." He tried. Suddenly one day he realized the chewing gum that he made was more elastic, was softer, and had a quality which none of the other bubble gums had up until that point. But he was an idiot. He went back to his boss and said, "I have made something, have a look at it." The company took it over. They didn't pay him anything. He should have actually sold it, you know, because it was his IP. He should have actually sold it. He didn't, because he was too excited that he found something which was, you know, he could now go back and tell people, I know how to make chewing gum, right? So if you remember, those of you who are older here will know, earlier chewing gums used to come only in pink color. Do you remember that? Now you get white. Earlier it used to be only pink, because pink was the material, the color that they used to use in the bubble gum factory those days. So he also had created a pink bubble gum, except that this time the bubble gum was very different. Any guesses what this bubble gum was? Wrigley's. This is the bubble gum that eventually came to be known as Wrigley's and became the world's largest chewing gum brand. Okay. Now where did this idea come from? From his fight with the marketing guy, from his fight with a colleague. So did it come from outside? It came from his own situation, personal situation, right? Most ideas are from your own personal situation, except that we don't have a sensitive antenna, so most of us don't pick up. One silly guy who wants to be an entrepreneur will pick it up, and then he will go laughing to the bank. Right? Most of the times that's how it works. The second and an even more interesting story. A guy had gotten newly married. He used to work with Johnson & Johnson. Had just got married, brought his new bride home. The bride was very clumsy. She was not used to cooking. So every time she would cut vegetables, she would cut her finger. And every time she would scream, she would bring the roof down, crying. And he started cutting gauze strips and pieces of cotton and putting it on her cut to blot the blood. One day she said, when I cut, when you are not there, what should I do? When you are at work, what do I do? How do I stop the blood flow? So he said, okay, I will keep some gauze strips and cotton, cut, all you have to do is wrap it around your finger. So she said, okay. It worked. Life was very good. So one day he told his boss, saying, you know what, this is what I do. Any guesses what this product was? Band-Aid. But he was smart, he sold it to J&J. He sold it to Johnson & Johnson, he made some money, and then he retired. Point, that was how Band-Aid was created. Again, what was the circumstance that led to this idea? His own personal situation. So typically, ideas come from your own pain points. Typically, that's how it works, except that some of us may act upon it, some of us may not act upon it. Always, yeah, it's a pain point or it's a pleasure point. How many of you know a site called tallyho.com? Any of you members? Tallyho? Tally is Hindi Tally, getting drunk. So it's a site that teaches you how to mix cocktails, what are the, what kinds of alcohol go well with what kinds of drink. They even do online bartending classes. Okay? To my mind, that is not a pain point, that is a pleasure point. Am I right? So it could come from your pain point, it could come from your pleasure point. Sorry. This is a story I heard, when one of the places I teach is Princeton University in the US. So this is a story somebody told me there. So there was this graphic designer who had just moved to New York and loved New York. He had come from a smaller town in the US, loved his apartment complex, loved his neighbors. The only problem was that 2 houses away in an apartment, there was a dog. And the dog wouldn't stop barking, would go on barking full day. And he said, yeah, one day understandable. Well, how can he go on howling throughout the day? So he said, okay, let me go to this guy on the weekend, talk to him, ask him why this bloody dog howls like this. So on a Saturday morning, he walked in to the neighbor. The neighbor's door was open. He peeped in. Neighbor is sitting reading newspaper, drinking tea. Next to him is the dog, howling away. And the neighbor is unperturbed completely. So he goes to the neighbor, knocks, and he says, "Why is your dog howling?" So the neighbor very nonchalantly said, "Ah, he's sitting on a nail." "So why doesn't he move?" "Oh, he'll move when it hurts him enough." I think that's the case with most of us, right? We get stuck in a traffic jam, we will crib, we will expect somebody else to sort our problem, but we won't do anything about solving the problem. But there is one guy who says enough is enough. I've had enough of this problem. It hurts me too much. I'm going to do something about it. Right? So, like I said, ideas typically are from your pain points or your pleasure points. How many of you know this site? Hot or not? I'm sure even if you have seen it, you will not admit to it. It was a site developed by two youngsters, one who did not have a job, the other who was a Casanova. So every time the Casanova went on a date, he would come back and tell his friend, "Ah, you know, last evening I took this girl on a date and she was really hot." And this guy would chabi him saying, "On a 10-point scale, how would you rate her?" And the guy would say 9. So this guy said, "Yeah, every time you try telling me that you are dating a girl who's 9 on 10-point scale. 5, 6 को देखता ही नहीं है क्या? I can't believe it. I mean, you're not so good looking in any case. How do you manage that?" That gave them an idea. So they asked all their women friends